Hello, I'm Dell, and welcome to what you need to know about home studios for social media. This episode I call an inconsistent audio. Now, when I first started working with this, I did what most people would do. They would look on the internet on various locations, find maybe some little training, some little tidbits of how to do things, and it was good. Everything was accurate, I think. Well, most things were accurate, but they weren't complete. They didn't connect the dots for me. And I had to learn how to connect my own dots manually over a period of months. It was very frustrating. I think I could help you with this. I'm going to help you connect these very specific dots dealing with troublesome audio on a PC. Okay? Now, first thing I want to do is I want to remind us how we get to global audio. Global audio is in fact go to Files, Setting, Audio. I'm going to slide this over to the side just a little bit. Now, the neat thing about global audio is that it's hot all the time. It's down here in your mixer, no matter where you are in your production or your stream, there's your audio. And there's some things that I do use global audio for in my live streams and my other productions. This is a demo. I use my Odyssey link because it has my intro and extra or infill, exfill music. And so I leave it global so that no matter where I'm at and on that one panel to my right, I actually leave Odyssey up. So I can play any sound clip or whatever. Don't always have the system sound. But let's go ahead and delete them. And you just come to Odyssey and you just make it disabled. And you come to System and you make it disabled. And now when I close this, they should instantly go away. And they did. Magic. Okay, well, let's continue with our magic. Now that I have my scene up, what I want to do is, this being global, my Yeti mic is global. It's in every scene automatically. So logic would dictate to us, I want to go ahead and add the Yeti microphone, and it's always at the top, and yet I check for it all the time. All right, so we're going to make a new one. We're going to call this one Demo Yeti. We're going to come up, we're going to add just like we would a global, except it's a different pop-up, the Yeti mic. Now, I hope to demonstrate for you, if I've done this correctly, one error that's going to pop up on you at some point in time. I have a global audio. In this case, it's a microphone. It could be something else, and maybe I wouldn't pick up on it. But what's going to happen when I switch scenes, where right now, if you look over here, we have the same scene twice. We haven't loaded it yet. A scene audio won't activate until you switch to that scene. Now, I have the same scene loaded twice, but I have a current version and the preview version. The preview version is the one we added the microphone to, the extra microphone, the scene audio microphone to. It's not running yet because I haven't switched scenes. When I do the transition, we're going to have an echo. Now we probably have an echo. Do we have an echo? I bet we do. Now to get rid of the echo, I'm just going to come down here and turn off our global Yeti mic. Now the echo should go away. Now I'm running off of local audio or scene audio versus. Now I'm going to hush, and I want you to notice a few things when I do. It's a bit noisy. That's because we have some filters in our standard audio. You can hear the CPU fan to my side over here. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and fix that. Put my main scene back up. Now I want to fix that. I want to add a filter. Just come down here to my gear, filter, and I want to add two filters. The first one is a compressor. And what a compressor does, you have a ratio of how tight it compresses your sound. It literally, if I turn to the mic, it's going to be louder than if I turn my head away from the mic. What a compressor does, it kind of brings together the maximum and minimum noise levels or audio levels. Now that you have some attack and release, those are just speed of how quickly it works and a threshold of when you want it to trip and when you don't want it to trip. But the first thing I want to do is just turn up the gain a little bit. I want to turn it up to about 6, and you should hear it get louder in the stream. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I want to add one other thing called a noise gate to cut off that sound of the CPU fan over there running. And that's what it does. It works like an old squelch on a radio, if you know what that is. You have to go to a certain level of audio before the speaker turns on and you would hear it. Well, this is going to do the same thing. It's going to quiet the mic. It's going to cut the mic until such time as we have a good baseline strong signal. And now you see it goes down, but that's banging pretty high. The reason I put a little gain on is I want to bring this guy down a little bit so that I'm down there just at the kind of touching in the yellow. I don't mind if I bounce occasionally up in the yellow, but I don't want it to be banging on the red either. Maybe just take that down just a little bit more. Now that we have that going on, we now know that we have our local scene audio working, but I only have it in the one scene. I have it only on the center panel. If I were to switch channels, the display, you couldn't hear me, could you? Right? Because in the main scene, I have no microphone. But the audio stuff is a little sneaky if you don't quite grasp it. So let's go ahead and fix that, right? We don't have audio in main scene, so let's go ahead and go up to main scene and add it. Let's add it to main scene and in the 3 others as well. If I intentionally duplicated this error, that again, I'm just admitting to you guys because I'm just an honest guy. This was a little bug. It took me a while to chase down, and it irritated me. And I'd think I'd practice and I'd work it, I'd get it all set up, and then I'd come up with an inconsistent audio, and it would drive me nuts. Now, I think we're probably in pretty good shape. Now, what I'm going to do next is I have a little piece that I want to read. It's one long sentence, but it's so long and it has so many commas. I'm able to read a while, get to a comma, and I want to switch scenes to see what we just did. And I want to run through each of the 4 scenes that you saw to my side there. We have a main scene, which looks a lot like the main camera, but they're at different ends of the totem pole. And then I have, of course, a center panel so I can show you what things look like when I'm switching. And I also have a nested camera. And all of those are very valid things you might want to have in your production. But they didn't have a microphone because we cut global microphone off and we added a local microphone or scene audio. So that's where we are. Okay? Now, I'm going to read this piece, and I'll probably be a little trippy on the tongue or whatever. Usually if I have to look at a camera and read something, I can't do both at the same time. Walk and chew gum, they say. But we're going to run this little demo, and we're going to see if we have anything unusual happen. And then we're going to learn something. Now, we're getting ready to run this demo, and let's just see what it does, okay? We shall go on to the end. We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island. Whatever the cost may be, we shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender, and even if, which I do not for a moment believe, this island, or a large part of it, were subjugated and starving, then our empire beyond the seas, armed and guarded by the British fleet, would carry on the struggle until, in God's good time, the new world, with all its power and might, steps forth to the rescue and the liberation of the old. Let's see how that turned out. I tried to keep my head straight and come back. I will have to edit the head turnings out for you. Now, we just saw an inconsistent audio because everything that was down should have been up and everything that was up should have been down. Now, this is very aggravating. Now, in the pre-scene seating videos. We saw two of them together. One of them was on global audio, and it's very easy. We just showed you how to turn it on. We pop it in, it's on everywhere, and it works well. It's easy to manage, except for the simple fact that it has to be controlled manually. If you have it in all of your scenes and you're broadcasting in the program panel, when you turn it off, it'll turn it off at that point manually. You have to manually turn it off. You can't automatically switch it. Scene audio, you can switch it on or off just simply by switching scenes. And we'll do an advanced demonstration of that and how you can use that in a little bit in a different video upcoming. So we did try nesting, and we got our video to work out beautifully and consistently. Now we've turned off our global sound, put in our scene microphone, and found out it was just all over the place. So now what I'm going to do is go into the panel and turn all of the microphones off except for the main camera, the lowest level camera, because I have it reflected in each of these other scenes. So it will be there in each of the scenes, but I'll only have it there one time. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, you saw me go in there. We've deleted each one of them but the last one, but the first one if you prefer, the lowest level, the one that we have nested in there. Now, I don't want to read Churchill a minute, something's worth of Churchill. So what I'm going to try to do is to say a line as best I can, and we'll see if the audio changes as I switch scenes. Are you ready for this? All right. Now is the winter of our discontent. May glorious summer the son of York. Now is the winter of our discontent. May glorious summer by the son of York. Now is the summer of our discontent. May glorious summer thy the son of York. Now is the winter of our discontent. May glorious summer by this son of York. Well, what did we learn? Well, that greatly depends on how well I did explaining this. Now, most of us probably started out with just getting audio connected to OBS. And the easiest way to get a microphone like this one here, this Yeti mic, is to go into Files and Settings and add it there. And it's global. And it's there in all the scenes no matter where I go. And that's terrific. Except that in order to turn it off, if I need to sneeze or need to have a side discussion or something like that, I have to remember to run down to the audio mixer and mute that microphone. And if I mute it, I got to remember to unmute it later on. So the benefit of scene audio is that the audio travels with the scene. An example of that might be if I'm using System Browser, okay, and I want to show something or show a video clip from the internet, or I have a different type of media running and I want to bring that sound in with that presentation, that scene, get it in and get it out, so it comes in only when I'm looking at the browser and leaves when I stop looking at the browser. Scene audio is a great way to do that. Now, if we have something like my audio music or live stream, I always have intro and extra music. I run Odyssey in the engineers panel beside the stream health and the data and that kind of stuff on that side. And I have it global, but I could also have a soundbite or a news clip or something like that in that Audacity, in that setup. So I would have that global, because the only time I'm going to use that is when I manually trip it, and it's audio only. So that could be a good example of using something globally. Well, we've already talked about how running the internet, we don't want that sound to be there until we just bring that thing in. And often when you're running a show and you just showed something on the left panel or the internet panel and you swap that off and now you're talking to the audience, one of those pop-up ads runs in the background, doesn't it? Well, if you had global audio for your system sounds and it was turned on, they're going to hear that. They're going to hear that sound pop up from somewhere. Maybe you're just flipping through and you just need to look at it. Maybe you need to pre-monitor and hear what's going to come up because it leads with a commercial. So you want to pre-play that and stop after you've listened to the commercial. If we have scene audio in that case, we can switch in and out. That's the benefit. But just like this branded background behind me, where do you put it? Well, if I put it in my low-level camera, wherever that image goes, that scene back there goes with it. And this is a good time, by the way, to mention, subscribe to me on YouTube at RLDEL149, and we're trying Rumble out at Del Holler Productions, No Spaces. And if you go to Rumble, I believe you can only see them on the Rumble player, but the benefit to that is you're about 4 episodes ahead if you go to Rumble. Now, as we saw when we did the nesting and we talked about the insets in the background, it gives you a single control point to control the backgrounds. Well, you could put the microphone there as well. The problem with that is if you go to scene audio and you still have the global audio microphone playing, they will clash and you'll get 2 instances of this microphone and they will be out of phase, so you get an echo. Well, if we then fix that by turning off the global microphone and we're only using nested or the scene audio and we nest, we can end up with multiple copies in phase of that microphone. And we showed that with that first demonstration. We said, well, we just killed our global microphone off and we're going to add it in here somewhere where I put it in main camera, because main camera, sometimes I show it. I want to be able to hear myself. And I have a main scene, which is top level. So that's top and the bottom of that totem pole. And I want to hear that too. So I put a microphone up there. And if I'm showing you the console through the center panel to show you OBS, and I want you to be able to hear me there. So I put a microphone there, and I have an inset, the little nested version, and I put a microphone there. I've got the microphone in all those scenes. And logic should dictate that would be just terrific. Would be great. But the reality we saw in that first demonstration is that I end up with multiple versions of that thing running, and they add up. They sum up. Okay? 1 mic is 1 mic, 2 mics is 2 times that, 3 mics is 3 times that. So if I have just this scene you're looking at now, the main camera, and I have the microphone there, we have audio. Now, if I put that in the nested and I added an extra mic in the nested version of this camera, then I have it 2 times. If I go to the center panel where I show you the studio and I have that inset going down in that bottom corner, I have 3 copies of that microphone. I have it once in the camera, I have it once in the nest, and then I had added it to the panel itself. Because if I don't add it to the panel and I turn my inset off, my audio would go away because my camera's not there. And when I turn the inset off, I'm actually killing 2 copies of it. So I would drop to 1/3. See, it can get real confusing if you don't understand how you do it. Now, in a totem pole, most people think that the top man on the totem pole, from the expression low man on the totem pole, but actually in the totem structure, it is the lowest man. The atlas that holds up the world, he is the most important part. And if you put your audio there, that's great. But you have to remember, if you go low level, anything that trips out that one image like this camera, your audio is going away. And if you put it at the top, you have to put it at your top level scenes, but then you can't re-nest those in another one. Does it make sense? A little circular. But go back and watch this. Now, we proved on the second version, the second demo, we just took out all but 1 copy of that demo mic, and we proved that we have uniform audio throughout because it traveled with the camera. But perhaps in your system, you don't want it to travel specifically with your picture, because there's sometimes you might need to scratch your nose and you want to turn that off, but you don't want to disappear from the conversation if you're just like giving your guest the main stage. Or maybe he needs to scratch his nose and he texts you through the chat in the Zoom, I need to scratch, then that's the time that you put yourself back on as the only one in the scene, and he can scratch his nose and you can go back to doing the side-by-sides. There's just so much to this. It's a lot of fun, but it can be darn near frustrating.